We're here with Samantha Khong, Director of Sales, Smart Living, of course. Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit more about, Smart Living as a whole?
Yeah, Smart Living is actually the residential sub-brand of Smart Centers. For those of you who may not know, Smart Centers is one of Canada's largest real estate investment trust, and in 2019 was the birth of our residential sub-brand, Smart Living. Now, what that means for everybody is we now are focusing on building a lot of condos, townhouses, senior residences, self-storage, and even hotels, I would say. So not just commercial spaces, but all of the asset classes in general.
And I know everyone who's been to a Walmart, it's important to note where the history of smart centers and smart living comes from. Every Walmart plaza, every commercial piece of real estate for them, it is owned by smart centers.
Yeah, majority of them. So we do have over 185 properties all across Canada. So that is massive in today's market. I would say there aren't that many developers out there with this much acreages of land going for development.
And especially speaking about acreages of land, I know you guys have a massive parcel or allocation in Vaughan. Could you speak a little bit more towards that?
I'm glad you brought this up because it still surprises me to this day that not a lot of people know that there is a new city center coming into Vaughan. And aside from the new city center, Smart Centers is definitely heading this because we own approximately 100 acres of this master plan community, right? So because this is a 100-acre master plan, the city center is going to be the core of the downtown 400 acres in Vaughan.
Amazing. And as a part of that city center, as a part of relocating that in Vaughan, one of the big projects that you guys kind of have on the run right now, of course, is Park Place. Multi-phase project. We're looking at 2 towers. It's beautiful design, and it's going to be that centerpiece in Smart VMC.
That's right.
Right now, for people that are looking to get in, what's really special about Park Place? What really speaks to you about the location of Smart VMC as a whole? What separates it from maybe a different project for people who are like, let me buy in North York, let me buy in Toronto, let me buy, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere.
You're hilarious. So what's really key here is I don't think people talk about this enough. If I were to say, when was the last time anybody witnessed a new city center being built? Who knows? Could have been 15, 20, 30 years ago, for example, in North York. And quite frankly, there isn't another developer out there who has even attempted building a new city center. So for us, what really separates us is planning ahead of time. We're putting in the infrastructure in this new city center. And what I mean by planning and infrastructure, prior to even putting condo buildings and bringing residential in, we thought about what do people really need? Your day-to-day activities, what is the most important things for the everyday individuals who's going to be utilizing this space? So for us, the key items were, number one, bringing in infrastructure in terms of transit. Not just a TTC subway, we also have a bus terminal that is the true connector of the entire York region. So the York region transit runs through our location as well, and also a connector to the Zoom Brampton transit. So with the first piece we put in, transit, that is the number one component. The number two component is the highway access, right? So the highway access to the 400, the Highway 7, and the 401 and the 407, something that not everybody is really aware of. Prior to even putting into the infrastructure, we thought about when someone is, let's say for yourselves, you're driving from Highway 400 and you're exiting.
Exactly.
Right? We wanted to make sure that when you're going off of the off-ramp of Highway 400, you can turn right into the Highway 7 and even go straight. That was actually something that Smart Centers thought about way ahead of time in terms of planning to make sure that we utilize the traffic. So that is something that we definitely make sure that we think about when we're putting in a new city center.
Yeah, and the big thing there is it's having that long-term vision and really planning in decades instead of years.
Yes.
And when you have a developer who's been true, tried and tested over decades and decades, where they have been out and about, whether it be commercial, whether it be retail, whether it be working in the residential sector, right? You can bring these efficiencies forward and make that much of a greater development, right?
Yep. And if I were to ask you as just an individual, if you were to live in a new city center, what are the key components that are important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest things would be, well, for the average individual, jobs, right? I love having shopping nearby. That's
Of
something
course.
really important, right? You want to make sure you've got some great restaurants, you've got great places to go out and about. Transportation's not as big for me because I love driving because I'm used to the suburbs. Love it biased, love it biased. But if I wasn't, transportation would definitely be a big factor because getting around is really important because a lot of people, especially if you're living in Vaughan, for example, they're commuting downtown, right? Their jobs are downtown. A lot of the office space is downtown. Now, that isn't always the case. For example, Smart VMC, we do have KPMG there, a lot of other large scale, anchor tenants in terms of employment as well.
Yeah, so those are key components. And in terms of smart centers, what we really look at is what other things can we really put into a thriving community, right? We touched upon transit, you touched a little bit upon businesses. We also will later on have grocery stores, urban plazas. There's a proposed elementary school as well. There's already a community center with Vaughan Public Library with a daycare facility. And one of the most key pieces of this master plan is our 9-acre Central Park.
And that's huge because,
Right.
you look anywhere else, you look downtown, you look North York, you look in any other city, when and where are you really seeing that much acreage just being allocated to green space, right? Like in Canada, we only have a good maybe 6 to 8 months to enjoy it outdoors.
Absolutely.
But when you're there, if it's at your doorstep, right, you're going to use it that much more. Whether you're playing a little bit of ultimate frisbee, you're playing football, you're playing rugby, you're out and about playing soccer, a little bit of basketball, right? I love doing all these things in the summer. And if you don't have access, if it's not close by, it just doesn't make you want to do it. If you have to drive 30 minutes just to go play soccer,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
What are the odds that you're actually going to do it?
And we also understand that how important it is for the individuals who's living in the city centers or the master plans that we build is how are they going to interact? How are their families going to interact? How can they incorporate their everyday lives into the conveniences around them within this area? So what we set forth is to almost build a 15-minute city in Vaughan where, let's say you walk down the stairs up from Park Place Condos, your new home. We want to make sure that you're able to walk within a 15-minute radius to your groceries, to your daycare, to your schools, to your transit, to your urban plazas, to your restaurants, and all of that. So you never really have to drive or go, I would say, 15, 20, 30 minutes to get to your everyday activities.
Yeah, and that's really important because, the most important asset we have at the end of the day, it's time.
Yep.
Right, and at the end of the day, time is also money. So the more time you save, the more money you save in a sense as well, and you're able to better allocate it towards things you want, whether that be spending it with family, whether that be spending with people you really care about, doing the things that you really enjoy.
Exactly. You really hit that home for me, spending time with the family and spending time with the people that you really enjoy being around.
Absolutely. Now, with the proximity to transit, right, and it being a 15-minute city, what are sort of the travel times we're looking at? Let's say if someone wants to go from Smart VMC to Union.
In terms of transit, it's about a 3.5 minute walk to the subway station. And from the subway station, it's one line, you don't even have to switch, and you're able to get to Union Station in about 42 minutes.
Phenomenal. And the thing is, the nice thing about commuting, especially via the subway, you can actually work while you're commuting, right? When you're stuck in traffic, unless you have a Tesla, and still, I think you'll get a ticket for it. You might get a ticket for it. You can't really work while you're on the road, right? And that's something that's really important because that's another 40 minutes you can add in to free up time later in the day. Yeah.
And personally, I always tend to actually make this as a joke. When it's game night, we all know there's Raptors game, there's Blue Jays, there's hockey. There was one time I tested this myself personally where I had to take the subway to make it to a Raptors game.
Yep.
And I left my car up in Vaughan and forget about the driving and going through the traffic.
Yep.
And I was able to get there during rush hour in about 48 minutes.
Wow.
How convenient.
That's very convenient. Yeah. Usually getting out of the Raps game, I remember the last time I was at one, it was literally, I think, took an hour and a half getting out of downtown. So 48 minutes would be a godsend, right? A true godsend. Now, when we go back to Park Place, it's a 15-minute city. We're looking at excellent commute times. We have the transit accessibility as well. What are the other things that we're looking at that really set it apart? Maybe in terms of interior design, maybe in terms of finishing, because nowadays, every project is the hottest launch of the year.
Yeah.
Every project, a lot of them use the same architects, a lot of them use the same designers, but what is unique maybe about the design, maybe about the vision behind Park Place from an artistic perspective?
So for Park Place, we really want to make it the star in the center of the Central Park. So a lot of our designs is very luxurious. So when it comes down to not just luxury, I think it's a term that's thrown out a lot. What we truly mean is quality finishes, even some of our interiors, one-piece backsplashes. We want to make sure that this is standard for all of our residents instead of an upgrade, right? So we also have our interiors, the curved windows that aren't really seen in the scale of Vaughan as well. And for us, the amenity programs. Tell me how many other condo developments have a 40,000 square feet amenity program just in the second floor of our towers. It's phenomenal, right? And we truly have everything that encompasses your everyday living, such as your co-working space, which is huge in today's world. And then there's children's play area, we have gym, boxing area, yoga studio, library, podcast room, all of these sorts, party rooms, outdoor terraces. It goes on and on and on.
And you know, that's really cool where you have your gym all in one stop shop with a 40,000 square feet of amenity space. Thing is, you don't really have to leave if you don't want to, per se, right? So when I was in university, I was in a condo, similar Prospect, we had lots of amenities. And honestly, aside from going to class, I didn't really have a reason to leave. The gym was there, the groceries were there. Everything's sort of a one-stop shop and you don't really have to go out of your way, right? It makes your life that much more convenient.
Exactly. And for us, the ground floor, we also have commercial spaces that's allocated to like your restaurants, your coffee shops in the morning. When you come down before you go to work, you grab a cup of coffee, take a stroll along the Central Park before heading to the subway if you like to commute to work. It's truly a very convenient neighborhood to live in.
Exactly. And the one other nice thing about Vaughan, and especially the Smart VMC area that I've personally noticed, you really get the boutique coffee shops, right? And for someone who loves coffee and maybe drinks a little too much, right? It is really important, right? Vaughan, for example, you know, it's one of the cities you can still find it. When you go to maybe, let's say, and I live in Brampton, full disclosure, right? There's not that many boutique coffee shops, right? You'd be hard pressed to find it. So it's always nice to get, you know, that boutique cafe vibe while still being in the city, while having a lot of different options as well. You're not just going to be always stuck going to the same cafe, stuck going to the same restaurant, because you have options.
That's right. And we have Balzac's Coffee, Buka's opening very soon. So it's going to be truly a place that I would say not really a lot of people are aware is coming, but it's already happened. It's already happened. So in the next, I would say 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as Vaughan makes more noise, people are going to realize that so much already happened. And right now you do have an opportunity to secure a beautiful unit in this future new city center.
Exactly. And the thing with pre-construction is, of course, you're buying tomorrow's discounted rate today, right? You have the opportunity to invest in something now, which isn't going to be occupying all the way until 2027.
That's right.
Right? You buy yourself almost 5 years. 4 years and change, right? Call it that. Where you aren't going to have a mortgage, your payments are going to be spread out, and you know you've got a phenomenal deposit structure actually, where you're not even doing a full 20%.
Yeah, we have our 15% deposit, so 5% in 30 days, and then 5% 120 days, 2.5% in 300 days, and then another 2.5 in 540 days. So it's really structured to give you the flexibility to make your payments. Exactly,
and the thing is, with all the development coming in Vaughan as a whole, right? It's not just Smart VMC. There are sites to the north, sites to the south of this. With all of that development in the area happening, of course, every developer benchmarks based off the last project, right? If one project launches at, let's say, 1,150 a foot, the next one's going to be 1,200, right? So on and so forth. And time again, this has repeated itself, right? That's just the cyclic nature of the market and what we end up seeing. Now, after this, right, there is actually another phase of Park Place coming in, a whole other tower.
That's right.
Right? So there you can typically expect prices to increase, right? And people who get in today, it's almost a surefire way to, you know, recoup some gains on your investment to really get that ROI early without anything changing in the market per se.
Yeah, precisely. So right now the South Tower is available for sale. Definitely get in prior to the North Tower coming to play. And not just in the VMC, there's a lot of product coming into the neighborhood. Reason being because, I will say this again, there hasn't been anything in history done where a new downtown and a new city center is being built. Keep this in mind, and you know so much about this and how I truly say you're in the process of witnessing history as we continue to build this.
You are witnessing history, and the other thing is, another point you kind of mentioned is that it's already happened partially, right? Most other developments, they harp on the fact that, transit's coming, it's coming in 5 years, and, honestly speaking, government timelines, you never know, right? I've been hearing about that highway connecting the 410 down to the 403 for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
It'll take a while, right? The 427 extension took forever. Right, literally took forever. That was like 3-4 years where it was miserable in traffic out that way, right? But the whole thing is the transit's already here. The shops are already here. Your commercial tenants are already here. You're not looking for these to come. This isn't a hypothetical. That's your starting point, right? All we're missing is the 9-acre park, the 2 beautiful towers with Park Place.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the team that's bringing this to play, aside from Smart Living, who are we looking at for, let's say, interior design? Who are we talking about, let's say, for architecture, right? Because that's always important as well to maybe set the project apart a little bit.
So our interior design is Hariri Pontorini Architects, so HPA. They're the ones who also brought you One Bloor and the Shangri-La as well. So you can really expect great design and architecture in our entire building.
And Shang's absolutely gorgeous, so with the same architect, you get that beautiful luxury finishing. And you mentioned some of the features and finishes, like the single panel backsplash. Normally with most other builders, these are things that you're gonna be paying above and beyond for as upgrades, and that really does add up. Because let's say you book a condo for $800,000. Now, all of a sudden, it's, you add on your upgrades. Maybe let's say you're upgrading the trim, maybe, smooth ceilings. If it's not included, let's tack on maybe, an upgraded backsplash, upgraded countertop. All of a sudden, you might be looking at an extra $50,000 or $100,000. Now here, that's, again, your starting point.
Yeah.
Because that luxury is already the base. So anything above and beyond, that's more so just your personal taste. You don't have to, think that your base finishing is going to be something subpar.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
We're truly built on quality design, and what we aim for in one of our pillars is to deliver a long-lasting, premium quality product. Not just good for the next 1 to 3 years, but also for the rest of the lifetime, and that is something that we pride ourselves on.
Exactly, and just the general scope of Vaughan, we're seeing it shifting a lot, and a lot of the people who are moving into Vaughan now, of course, with all these big companies there, but also people who love to commute, you are seeing a lot of young professionals, a lot of first-time home buyers, because it gives you that city feel without the congestion.
That's right, and another thing that Smart Living really prioritizes on is livable spaces. Right? A lot of our units, they're great spaces for whether you're working from home, you have the hybrid work model. We have to remember that when you're up in the Vaughan area, we do not want to put individuals into these small sizes, which has become a trend, I would say, over the couple of years. So for us, we really prioritize how does the individual feel when they are in this unit and living in this space. So livable spaces, quality design, well-built designs is something that we really put a lot of time and energy into.
And functionality is something that, when I was going through the floor plans myself, I did see, right? There's no really wasted space per se. Every square foot in your unit is going to be used towards something that is productive or functional for you. And that makes it that much easier when you come home, maybe it is your first condo that you're living in, maybe you're a downsizer. It still gives you that functional space that you can use day in, day out, and it'll put a smile on your face every time you turn that key just to walk home.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's sort of the general gist of Park Place. Now, what can we expect in terms of pricing? What are we looking at for the given units that are available right now?
So right now we do have 1-bedroom units starting around the mid-600s. Some great 1-bedroom plus den options in the South Tower starting from the mid-700s, and then our 2-bedroom options starting from the mid-800s. And for those who are looking for quite livable spaces for our largest 2-bedroom, it's, I would say, in the low millions. So amazing. Great options.
Amazing, that's phenomenal. And when we're talking about views, let's say, we're in Park Place, and I know some people get a little bit concerned or maybe a little bit caught up in terms of what they're going to be looking at day in, day out, looking out the window, right? What can we expect in terms of the views at Park Place for the South Tower as well as the North Tower?
So the two buildings are specifically designed to be a little bit offset. So every single unit in both of the towers has beautiful views.
And you won't be looking into your neighbors.
That's right, not downtown. It's not your average downtown condo. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Privacy is very important, as you know it. So because of the way the buildings are built, even if you're on the northeast southwest, you have beautiful views of the Highway 7 view, or even on the north end, the view of the park in the future.
Phenomenal. And the other nice thing to keep in mind is a lot of the buildings around it are already set, they're already constructed, and you already know the height. So if you're, let's say, I believe one of them's about 15 stories,
Yeah.
right beside it,
Yeah.
right? As long as you're above the 15th floor, you're gonna have unobstructed views guaranteed for life.
Yes.
Almost, right? Again, nothing's a guarantee. So maybe I'll put a disclaimer on that. We're gonna make sure it's not guaranteed, but it's 99% guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that's something important to keep in mind as well. And, personally, what's your favorite thing about the project? Like, what got you in to say that, Smart Living is the home for you right now? What made you transition to say, Smart Living is the company I want to work with. Park Place is a phenomenal project that I really want to take under my belt and, see it through.
Truthfully, it's the city center. Sometimes I still get goosebumps when I speak about this because I've never witnessed something so grand and anything like this done before, right? Taking into account the everyday lives of your individuals, how can we make that better for everyone? Not just in the building itself, what type of amenities can we put into the program where it will be utilized, right? How can we create a community, which is huge in today's market, where people can come out to the park, celebrate. We had our holiday tree this year.
Yeah.
Over 100 feet holiday because
Tallest in Canada?
Tallest in Canada.
There you go.
Right, because we truly value how the community spends time together, and it to me, I feel grateful that I get to work for such a huge company that cares about all of these key little pieces in terms of what they put into a community. They think about it again, and then they review it. And if it doesn't work out, if it's something that we don't think is truly valuable to the people who will be accessing this community, we'll think about it some more. So to be with a company who puts so much pride and thoughtfulness into your everyday users of what they really build is truly an inspiration to me.
That's phenomenal. And, in general, let's just say someone's looking to get into Park Place today. What are the next steps for them?
Next steps, obviously, contact your most wonderful agent here. He knows so much about pre-construction. You have to truly work with the best in the industry to take you to the projects that really matter, that really have opportunity, growth, and value in the future.
No, thank you for your kind words, Samantha. Thank you for coming out today. We'll make sure you guys get an intro as well. If you're looking to learn a little bit more about Park Place, if you're looking to explore Smart VMC as your next investment vehicle, maybe as your next home as well, because it's such a livable space, make sure you guys give me a call, 647-230-6610.